Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Let us continue with Surah An-Nisaa bihawlillahi wa quwwatih. We are on ayah number 166. قال الله تبارك وتعالى لكن الله يشهد بما أنزل إليك أنزله بعلمه والملائكة يشهدون وكفى بالله شهيدا. Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anhu reports that a group of the Yahud came to the Prophet, and the Prophet told them, Wallahi, I know that you recognize me as the Prophet. And the Yahud said, no, we do not know this. To which Allah Jalla wa Ala revealed this ayah. It says, but Allah testifies, yashhadu, to what He has sent down to you, meaning the Quran. So even if the Yahud would deny it, Allah testifies to it. He says, أنزله بعلمه, He sent it down with His knowledge. So the knowledge referred to is the knowledge which Allah has imparted on the Prophet about rules of guidance and misguidance, the halal and the haram, and all that type of knowledge which Allah Jalla wa Ala wishes to impart on the Prophet. So these are matters which are not possible to know about unless Allah reveals them to you. He also says that the Malaika testify that Allah has sent the Prophet in truth, so that even if the whole of mankind disbelieves and rebels, it does not make a difference as long as Allah testifies and His Malaika also testify. And he says, وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ شَهِيدًا, meaning enough is Allah as a shaheed, as a witness, meaning to say you do not need anyone else. So picking up on some benefits of this ayah, we find that Allah witnesses, and that this is one of His attributes. We also find that the Quran contains knowledge which Allah Jalla wa Ala decides to impart, and He has only imparted on us a small fraction of His complete knowledge. It's impossible to know everything which Allah knows, that's fairly obvious. But the knowledge which He has imparted on us is enough for our salvation and our guidance in entry into Jannah, and that is all that matters to us. We also learn that the Malaika witness that the Quran is indeed from Allah, and that the Messenger is indeed the true Messenger who has received the unaltered Quran. We also learn a vital point, that in this ayah Allah Jalla wa Ala is giving solace to the Prophet. He is telling the Prophet, even if everyone disbelieves in you, do not lose heart. As long as Allah Jalla wa Ala is on your side, then that is all you need. So do not lose hope, do not become dispirited. And in this there's a lesson for us, which is to say that we should also grant solace to those who are in difficulty, just as Allah does to the Prophet. Ayah 167. Inna alladhina kafaru wa saddu عن سبيل الله قد ضلوا ضلالا بعيدا. The words of this ayah are fairly straightforward. Indeed, those who kafaru, that is to say reject al-Islam, and saddu an sabilillah. Sad is to divert others from the path of Allah. So not only do they disbelieve, that would be bad enough, but no, they go a step further. They divert others and discourage others from the path of Allah Jalla wa Ala. The path of Allah is of course al-Islam. Allah says about them, قَدْ, they have ضَلُّوا ضَلَالًا بَعِيدًا, have gone far astray. The word ضَلَالًا is mansub bil-fatha because it is a maf'ulun mutlaq. It emphasizes the verb. بَعِيدًا is also mansub bil-fatha because it is a description of ضَلَالَة. So reflecting on this ayah, we find that disbelieving in al-Islam and diverting others is a faraway misguidance. One might ask, how does one divert others? This is done through various means. The kuffar would use media to try to demonize Muslims, thereby turning people away from Islam, or they may try to discredit al-Islam by their specious arguments or even by way of mockery. Or, for example, as was the case with the Yahud, they may try to cover up the description of the Prophet in the Torah. The point is, there are many ways in which one can divert others from the path of Allah Jalla wa Ala. The word sad, however, can have two meanings. It can mean to turn away your own self from the path of Allah, or it could also mean to turn others away from the path of Allah Jalla wa Ala as well. It could be understood in both ways. But of course, turning others away from the path of Allah is far worse. We learn that Allah says they have gone astray far. So it tells you that misguidance is not all on one level. Some types of misguidance are further astray than other types. Just like sins are not on the same level. Some sins are worse than others. It's the same with righteous deeds. Some are better than others. Ayah 168. Inna alladhina kafaru wa zalamu lam yakun Allahu liyaghfira lahum wala liyahdiyahum tariqan. So he says here, indeed those who make kufr, that is to reject Islam, and zalamu, they make dhulm, or wrongdoing, or oppression. So what does a zalamu mean? Because every kufr is a dhulm, is it not? What a dhulm here means is those who oppress the Prophet, or they do wrong to the Prophet by denying his prophethood, as was done by the Yahud. And also they oppress other people by diverting them from the path of Allah Jalla wa Ala. If somebody is in need of medicine and you deny them that medicine, have you not wronged them? The answer is yes. So in this way then, Al-Islam is the medicine that mankind needs. And if you divert them from it and deny them this medicine, then you are wronging them. And let's not forget that the kuffar make dhulm on their own selves, because denying yourself the opportunity to enter Jannah is of course a dhulm on your own self. So to such people he says, لَمْ يَكُنِ اللَّهُ لِيَغْفِرَ لَهُمْ. Allah was never going to forgive them. The lam لِيَغْفِرَ لَهُمْ is called lam al-juhud. Juhud means to reject. So Allah was not going to forgive them. And it makes the verb mansub. And he was never going to guide them away, meaning away to Jannah and guidance. Ayah 169 follows on. إلا طريق جهنم خالدين فيها أبدا وكان ذلك على الله يسيرا. He says, except the tariq, the way of Jahannam, meaning the path which leads to Jahannam. That's the path that Allah Jalla wa Ala will guide them to. And this is what happens when Allah Jalla wa Ala seals somebody's heart and they can never be guided. And after their death, Allah has obligated on such people that He shall place them in Jahannam. Because as we all know, kufr is the one sin that Allah Jalla wa Ala will not forgive after your death. He says, خالدين فيها, forever in it, meaning in the fire. Abadan, meaning without end. And he says that was always easy for Allah. So yasir here means easy. We find that Allah Jalla wa Ala will not guide the kuffar and those who make dhulm. But one might ask, is it not true that there are many kuffar around the world who were formerly kuffar? They may even have been enemies of Islam and then they are guided? And the answer to that objection is yes. Those people are simply an exception to the rule. So we have a generality and we have an exception to the generality. And that happens frequently in the Sharia. We also notice that Jahannam and Jannah both have a path which Allah Jalla wa Ala guides people to. We notice that the word hidayah is used in this negative context of guiding people to the fire. And there's a touch of sarcasm in this. Otherwise, guiding people to the fire is called misguidance, not guidance. And this ayah also provides us with vital evidence that the fire of Jahannam is forever without end. And this is in refutation to those of the ulama who have claimed that the fire will not go on forever but will eventually cease to exist. But the key word in this ayah is abadan, which means without end. And we also learn that everything is easy for Allah Jalla wa Ala, guiding people, misguiding people, because Allah Jalla wa Ala controls the hearts of people. Ayah number 170. Ya ayyuha an-nasu قَدْ جَاءَكُمْ الرَّسُولُ بِالْحَقِّ مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ فَآمِنُوا خَيْرًا لَكُمْ وَإِنْ تَكْفُرُوا فَإِنَّ لِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَلِيمًا حَكِيمًا. So we find the harf al-nida calling out to the people, inviting them to this deen, and he does this after the previous ayat where he establishes the truth of the prophethood and the Quran and the reality of those who reject this deen. So after all of that, he's inviting the people to embrace Islam when he informs them that there has come to you the messenger, meaning Muhammad ﷺ, bil-haq, with the truth. Meaning to say, this message of Islam and the Quran, this is the truth. It's not just something which is fabricated, like all the other fabricated religions. Bil-haq can also be understood in a different way, and it is to say that the Prophet has indeed been sent, that his advent is indeed the truth. He is indeed from Allah Jalla wa Ala as a messenger, and he's not just some sort of charlatan. So the first interpretation talks about what the Prophet has brought of the knowledge of this deen and the Quran. The second interpretation talks about the actual sending of the Prophet himself, that he is sent indeed by Allah and is not just a charlatan. And both of these interpretations, of course, are correct and complementary. Then he says, but if you takfuru, if you reject the deen, then to Allah belongs all that which is in the heavens and the earth. In other words, he does not need you to embrace Islam. Allah Jalla wa Ala is rich and he is free of any servants. So he has no need for you to embrace Islam. Rather, on the contrary, you need to embrace Islam. It is for your benefit, not for Allah's benefit. He says, min rabbikum, from your Rabb. Allah's rububiyyah means he creates everything except himself, and he owns all his creation, and he manages the affairs of his creation. This is his rububiyyah. He says, فَآمِنُوا, so believe, meaning believe in the Prophet and the message. خَيْرًا لَكُمْ, it is better for you. Here khayran is mansub bil fatha, and the reason is there is a fi'l, a verb which is missing, and it is yakun khayran lakum, but it is implied because it is understood. And he ends up by telling us a couple of his names, Alim and Hakim. We have spoken about those before. Notice also وَكَانَ اللَّهُ, and Allah was, meaning to say he always was and still is and will be, meaning there was never a point in time when he began to be Alim and Hakim. So reflecting on this ayah, we take that the Prophet is a true messenger. He has indeed been sent by Allah, and that which he has brought, meaning the Quran and his teachings, are also the truth from Allah Jalla wa Ala, and not fabricated nonsense, such as what you find with the other adyan. We also take that the Prophet is a prophet to the whole of mankind. Notice how Allah says, Ya ayyuhan nas, O man. So the message of the Prophet is for the whole of mankind. We also notice how Allah Jalla wa Ala gives the command to believe. He does not just merely give some information about the Prophet, and this is a lesson for us. When we give da'wah to the kuffar, we should not just teach them about al-Islam. No, we should invite them to Islam. There needs to be some type of an order form, even if it is just a gentle order, to embrace Islam. Because essentially this is what da'wah is. It is an invitation. It is not just an education. This is a vital difference, because so many Muslims think that simply educating people about Islam is da'wah. No, it is not da'wah. We find from this ayah that Iman is better for us. Now that does not mean that in kufr there is some good, but Iman is better. Rather, there is no good in kufr, and Iman is better in the absolute sense. We also take that Allah Jalla wa Ala has no need of people embracing Islam. It is only for our good. We also notice how Allah says that this is the truth from your Rabb. فَآمِنُوا, so believe. So the fa is sababiyah. Because it is the truth, then you ought to believe. So it means that wherever the truth lies, we are obligated to submit and humble ourselves to it, even if we may not like it. And most people fall at this hurdle. If the truth is distasteful to them, they will simply not accept it, and they will not humble themselves to the truth. We ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to soften our hearts to the truth. And we also learn of the two names of Allah, Alim and Hakim, along with their attributes which are uniquely befitting to the divine nature of Allah Jalla wa Ala. هذا والله أعلم.